The iron gates of the Windsor's estate have long stood as a silent symbol of absolute permanence, a fortress where traditions are etched into stone and family legacies are guarded with fierce, unspoken devotion. Behind these manicured hedgerows and gravel pathways lies a world governed by an unwritten code of conduct, where personal loyalty to the crown is the ultimate currency, and any breach of that trust carries a quiet but devastating penalty. For decades, the public has viewed the monarchy through a lens of grand pageantry, witnessing spectacular weddings, historic jubilees, and solemn state occasions that suggest an unbreakable familial bond. Yet, beneath the polished exterior of synchronized processions and impeccably tailored military uniforms, a complex web of internal rivalries and territorial disputes has quietly reshaped the modern court. The geography of royal residences is never merely a matter of real estate. It is a physical manifestation of favor, proximity to the throne, and institutional survival. When a historic property within these secure boundaries undergoes a sudden and drastic transformation, it's signaling a deeper shift in the structural dynamics of the family itself, offering a rare glimpse into a silent conflict that has been brewing for years behind closed palace doors. To fully comprehend the gravity of the current situation, one must look at how the royal family communicates its internal hierarchy through the very spaces they occupy and the public narratives they allow to surface. Every official announcement, every carefully placed feature article in the legacy media, and every subtle omission from the court circular serves a specific purpose in maintaining the delicate balance of power between the sovereign and the heir. Recently, the British media landscape has become a battleground of competing philosophies, where traditional concepts of lifetime service and performative duty clash directly with a more modern, streamlined approach to the monarchy. This ideological divide is not merely an academic debate. It influences everything from titles and patronages to the physical boundaries of where family members are permitted to reside. As the public watches these subtle maneuvers play out on television screens and news feeds, the tension within the institution becomes increasingly palpable, signaling that the old ways of managing internal dissent are no longer sufficient in an era of unprecedented global scrutiny and digital connectivity. Welcome back to another deep dive here at The Royalist, where we pull back the heavy velvet curtains of the British monarchy to examine the real forces driving today's headlines. I am incredibly grateful for the extraordinary community we have built together, and I want to take a moment to thank all of you for the brilliant, insightful comments you leave on every episode. Your feedback truly serves as our personal focus group, shaping the direction of our investigative reporting and helping us uncover the stories you care about most. If you want to ensure you never miss an exclusive update or an insider breakdown of these unfolding events, please take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button right now and consider sharing this broadcast with a friend who appreciates rigorous, independent journalism. This week, we are looking closely at the shifting tectonic plates within the House of Windsor, examining how a series of seemingly isolated events, from a highly anticipated country wedding to the sudden handling of sensitive institutional data, all point toward a unified, decisive strategy regarding who belongs within the inner circle and who is being permanently left out in the cold. At the very heart of the contemporary monarchy lies a profound disagreement about the future direction of the institution, a fundamental conflict that shapes every public appearance and private decision made by the top-tier royals. On one side stands a traditional model that values sheer volume of engagements, a relentless schedule of ribbon cuttings and town hall visits designed to prove the family's industriousness through numbers alone. On the other side is a strategic, long-term vision that disdains this performative approach, choosing instead to focus on high-impact global initiatives and a heavy digital presence designed to reach a modern audience where they actually live, which is online. This divergence in strategy has created two distinct centers of power within the palace, each with its own communications team and its own philosophy on how to protect the long-term viability of the crown. The friction between these two courts influences every aspect of royal life, creating a competitive environment where approval ratings are dissected with the intensity of a political campaign, and where private family gatherings are scrutinized for any sign of who is gaining ground and who is losing influence. This institutional tension becomes even more complicated when looking at how the younger generation of royals chooses to raise their children and manage their private lives eyes away from the cameras. Unlike the rigid, often distant parenting styles that characterized the mid-20th century court, the contemporary approach prioritizes stability, emotional well-being, and a semblance of ordinary domestic life. Friends of the family often whisper about how remarkably grounded this private world is, describing scenes that resemble typical middle-class households rather than the formal, historic surroundings of a royal estate. This deliberate choice to step back from a continuous cycle of public duties to focus on family stability is a direct reaction to the perceived traumas of the past, a conscious effort to ensure the next generation does not suffer the same fractures that have plagued the family for decades. However, this focus on privacy and domestic normalcy often draws sharp criticism from the older guard, who view any reduction in official duties as a lack of commitment to the historic responsibilities of the throne, further widening the gap between the two generations. As we prepare to witness the upcoming weekend festivities, which many are calling a fascinating barometer for the true state of the royal family, the guest list itself has become a subject of intense speculation and strategy. A country wedding on a private estate would normally be a joyous, strictly family affair, but in the current climate, it serves as a live map of institutional inclusion and exclusion. The decisions of who will attend, who has been quietly left off the list, and who might choose to stay away to avoid overshadowing the event will speak volumes about where the true power lies. Behind closed doors, away from the lenses of the paparazzi, the family members who remain within the firm will gather, creating a unique environment where separate brands and personal loyalties will be tested in real time. It is within these private spaces, rather than through official press releases, that the true future of the monarchy is being negotiated, making this weekend an absolutely essential chapter in an ongoing story of power, pride, and the high cost of royal survival. The delicate choreography of inclusion and exclusion within the royal household becomes blindingly obvious when a major family event arrives, serving as a live X-ray of the monarchy's fractured internal relations. This weekend, all eyes turn to Gatcombe Park, the private Gloucestershire estate of Princess Anne, where her son, Peter Phillips, is set to celebrate his second marriage, this time to Harriet Spurling. While a country wedding would typically be a purely celebratory occasion, the current climate of hostility has transformed the guest list into a definitive statement on who is officially out of favour. The roster of missing names speaks much louder than those who will be present, with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex entirely absent from the proceedings, alongside Prince Andrew and Sarah, Duchess of York. This double layer of banishment underscores a unified institutional decision to push problematic family members into permanent exile. Yet, the real tension surrounding the chapel doors involves the next generation, specifically Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie. Initially confirmed to attend, the sisters have reportedly been left mortified by the relentless resurgence of public allegations surrounding their father's past conduct. The looming question of whether they will walk into that church or withdraw to avoid a massive social media pile-on highlights the intense personal anxiety currently gripping the peripheral members of the House of Windsor. Princess Anne herself represents a unique, unyielding force within this complex family dynamic, known throughout the country for her non-nonsense approach to duty and an utter disdain for public relations optics. Insiders frequently note that while she is an incredibly formidable presence, she possesses a remarkably unjudgmental streak regarding family loyalty, having been one of the very few individuals to consistently spend private time with her brother Prince Andrew following his public disgrace. By extending an invitation to his daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, she is signaling that the children should not be forced to bear the burden of their parents' historic misdeeds. However, this charitable stance from the Princess Royal runs into direct conflict with the uncompromising strategy favoured by Prince William, who reportedly views any ongoing public association with the York family as highly toxic to the modern crown. Past holiday gatherings at Sandringham have already exposed this severe discomfort, with observers noting the strategic manner in which the Prince of Wales would suddenly find his winter scarf absolutely fascinating rather than engage in casual conversation with his cousins. This widening social and professional divide illustrates a broader campaign to completely isolate any branch of the family contaminated by scandal, regardless of childhood bonds, to truly understand how deep the modern aversion to exploiting the royal name runs. One must examine the historic precedent set by Peter Phillips himself nearly 2 decades ago. In 2008, his first wedding to Autumn Kelly became the centre of an unprecedented institutional scandal when it was revealed that the couple had sold the exclusive photographic rights to Hello magazine for a staggering £500,000. The resulting 100-page print special offered the public a shockingly unvarnished look at the young royals at play, featuring candid images of Prince William and a pre-wedding Catherine Middleton, alongside a highly uninhibited Prince Harry dancing with Chelsea Davy. The palace was blindsided by the sheer commercial scale of the spread, with Prince Harry reportedly left furious over what he perceived as a profound betrayal of his private life for monetary gain. Ironically, that infamous wedding reception took place at Frogmore Cottage, the very same property that would later become a geographic battleground for the Sussexes. In today's media landscape, such a blatant commercial deal is considered totally beyond the pale and extinct practice that would draw swift, severe retribution from the senior leadership of the family, proving how dramatically the rules of royal survival have shifted. The struggle for public relevance and commercial viability outside the institutional safety net is further illuminated by the Duchess of Sussex's recent business ventures into the competitive world of high fashion and lifestyle platform RMS. Her investment in and support of the luxury digital platform One-Off was heralded as a major entry into the modern influencer economy, yet an analytical look at the actual performance data paints a remarkably different picture. Following a series of highly publicized initial drops, the platform's grid went completely dark before resurfacing with sporadic, irregular updates that fundamentally misunderstand the basic rules of modern digital content creation. Successful high-fashion influencers maintain a rigid, predictable schedule to build an algorithmic appointment with their audience, whereas the Duchess's strategy has been characterized by sudden bursts of multiple posts followed by weeks of absolute silence. Furthermore, the items featured have frequently missed the contemporary brief entirely, with posts showcasing outdated designer garments from several seasons ago that have long since shifted into dead stock, making it virtually impossible for consumers to replicate the look in real time. This lack of consistent execution has resulted in vanishingly small sellout rates, with independent retail trackers noting that a tiny fraction of the items displayed have actually sold out. A stark contrast to the rapid commercial success experienced by established fashion figures on the very same platform. While the global media attention surrounding any new venture remains undeniably immense, this massive wave of curiosity has stubbornly failed to translate into actual retail transactions. There exists a profound disconnect between a general global audience clicking out of curiosity and the select demographic capable of purchasing high-end luxury goods. This commercial friction suggests that the brand has floated too far above its accessible, aspirational fan base, creating an unsustainable business model that lacks a realistic roadmap for long-term survival. Without a disciplined, authentic strategy focused on areas the public genuinely believes in, any lifestyle empire risks being severely pruned. Reminding observers that navigating the modern commercial market requires the exact same consistency and dedication as a life dedicated to traditional public service. Meanwhile, a much more dangerous institutional crisis continues to widen in the background, centered on the staggering volume of sensitive data detailing the historical financial dealings of Prince Andrew. Legal disclosures have confirmed that a massive physical archive consisting of 30,000 emails was officially handed over to the Lord Chamberlain's office years ago, shattering the narrative that the senior leadership was left entirely in the dark regarding these controversial relationships. These communications cover extensive dealings with prominent international banking families and include highly sensitive discussions regarding the commercial exploitation of insider information during global financial crises. The revelation that this extensive paper trail sat within the palace archives long before major international legal settlements were finalized raises uncomfortable questions about what was known and exactly when it was known. As independent investigators continue to chip away at the official wall of silence, the public is left to ponder whether these documents were properly reviewed by relevant authorities or intentionally buried to protect the dignity of the crown, creating a constitutional nightmare that refuses to fade from the public consciousness. The broader implications of this ongoing scandal have placed local law enforcement in an incredibly delicate position, with regional police forces quietly expanding their inquiries beyond mere misconduct in public office to encompass potential historical offences. Incidents dating back to major national milestones, including accusations of inappropriate behaviour towards staff during high-profile royal race weeks, are being re-examined under a modern lens. Despite the widening scope of these investigations, legal experts and historical biographers widely agree that the prospect of a senior royal ever facing formal charges or seeing the inside of a courtroom remains virtually non-existent. This immunity stems from a deeply entrenched institutional defense mechanism where any action arguably sanctioned or overlooked by the reigning sovereign creates a legal gridlock, as no domestic court possesses the constitutional appetite to call a sitting monarch to testify. Consequently, the family's historic instinct has always been to circle the wagons, executing a swift internal lockdown to protect the core of the institution while leaving peripheral figures to navigate the devastating fallout of public opinion entirely on their own. The culmination of this long-standing territorial and emotional conflict shelter has centered entirely on the physical fate of Frogmore Cottage, a historic property whose recent structural transformation serves as the ultimate punctuation's mark at the end of a tumultuous era. For 3 long, controversial years, this substantial residence sat entirely vacant within the secure perimeter of the Windsor estate, a silent monument to a fractured family dynamic. Now, the definitive decision has been executed to completely rip out the extensive £2.4 million renovation that had been meticulously designed using bespoke luxury fittings and contemporary fixtures. Every high-end appliance and customized structural enhancement is being stripped away, cast aside into construction skips, as the property is systematically dismantled and converted back into the multi-unit staff accommodation it was originally built to be. This aggressive reversal of a multi-million-pound investment is far more than a routine estate management decision. It represents a deliberate, calculated erasure of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's physical footprint from the very heart of the royal landscape, signaling that the bridge to their former lives has been permanently burned. To fully understand the intense fury erupting from the Sussex camp, one must examine the complex financial and emotional history that binds them to this specific piece of land. The extensive renovations were initially funded by the British taxpayer under the explicit assumption that the couple would remain permanent, working representatives of the Crown anchoring their family within the secure boundaries of the sovereign's estate. Following their dramatic departure from official duties, the couple took steps to fully reimburse the public purse for the structural costs. A financial maneuver they firmly believed would secure their ongoing right to occupy the property as a private sanctuary during their visits to the United Kingdom. Sources close to the couple have continuously emphasized that Frogmore Cottage was not merely a piece of premium real estate, but a personal wedding gift bestowed upon them by the late Queen Elizabeth II. By maintaining a full market rent on the empty property, the Sussexes believed they were fulfilling their end of a private agreement, making the sudden eviction notice a profoundly shocking blow that they perceive as a vindictive act of institutional hostility. The timing of this eviction has opened up a bitter new front in the public relations war, with the Sussex camp now advancing a highly explosive chronological claim that challenges the established media narrative. While the public has long believed that King Charles ordered the removal of his son in direct retaliation for the devastating personal disclosures published in the memoir Spare, insider briefings indicate that the bureaucratic wheels to evict them were actively turning well before that book ever hit the shelves. According to these private disclosures, the formal request for the couple to vacate the premises was already deeply in motion before their multi-part streaming documentary had even aired on global television. This new timeline is being used by the Sussexes to argue that their eviction was never a reactionary response to specific literary or cinematic betrayals, but rather a pre-planned, systematic punishment designed to penalize them for their original choice to seek financial independence away from the control of the palace firm. However, an objective analysis of this escalating feud reveals that the palace had ample, highly rational justification for securing the perimeter of their primary residential estate. Even if the eviction process began before the memoir or the documentary series was released, it occurred long after the world witnessed the explosive interview with Oprah Winfrey, a broadcasting event that sent shockwaves through the foundations of the monarchy. It was during that historic broadcast that the couple leveled devastating allegations of systemic prejudice against unnamed senior royals regarding the potential skin color of their unborn child, an accusation that was later traced back to the highest echelons of the family. From the perspective of the palace communications teams, having individuals who had publicly attacked the integrity of the institution, living right in their literal back garden, a mere stone's throw from Adelaide Cottage and Windsor Castle, posed an entirely unacceptable security and trust risk. The fear of private conversations being monitored or recorded for future commercial entertainment projects completely shattered any remaining semblance of familial trust, rendering their ongoing residency within the high-security zone completely untenable. The personal tragedy at the center of this territorial dispute is the absolute finality it imposes on the relationship between King Charles and his overseas grandchildren. a separation that has now been structurally locked into place. The Sussexes have long argued that by depriving them of a secure, permanent base within the United Kingdom, the king has effectively made it impossible for his grandchildren to safely visit their ancestral home or build a meaningful relationship with the reigning monarch. The palace leadership heavily resented this narrative, viewing it as a form of emotional coercion designed to force concessions regarding state-funded security detail. Yet, the Sussex side remains adamant that King Charles intentionally waited until after the passing of Queen Elizabeth to initiate the eviction paperwork, fully aware that the late monarch would have firmly blocked any attempt to strip the couple of her personal wedding gift. The late Queen's well-documented aversion to intense family confrontation and her vulnerability to emotional leverage from family members would have undoubtedly paralyzed any attempt to execute such a harsh directive while she remained on the throne. While the emotional grievances continue to dominate the headlines, the economic reality of the situation remains a genuine public scandal that reflects poorly on the administrative management of the royal estates, allowing a massive, historically significant residential property to sit entirely empty for 3 consecutive years during a national housing and economic crisis represents a staggering waste of public and institutional resources. The palace's subsequent attempt to solve the vacancy by offering the cottage to a disgraced Prince Andrew was swiftly rebuffed, as the Duke of York stubbornly refused to downgrade from his sprawling mansion at Royal Lodge, creating a ridiculous internal stalemate. Because Frogmore Cottage is situated directly within the private, highly sensitive grounds of the Windsor estate, it cannot simply be placed on the open luxury rental market or utilised as a high-end holiday rental due to the extreme security protocols required to protect the immediate neighbourhood, leaving the taxpayer to absorb the ongoing operational costs of a redundant asset. Ultimately, this entire saga exposes the incredible, deeply entrenched naivety that has characterized the Sussexes' strategy since the moment they chose to walk away from their institutional roles. It is completely irrational to expect to maintain a privileged, grace and favour style residential sanctuary on the sovereign's private estate while simultaneously waging a highly public, multi-million-pound commercial war against the very family providing that accommodation. Had the couple stepped back quietly, maintaining a respectful, dignified silence consistent with the promises made during their departure summits, the historic property would likely still be theirs today. Instead, by launching a continuous series of media hand grenades that targeted the character of the future king and queen, they left the institution with absolutely no choice but to permanently sever the final physical tie binding them to the United Kingdom. As the dust settles over the empty, stripped-out rooms of Frogmore Cottage, the reality of their permanent exile has become undeniable.